Hey guys, it's Krista Watson here from Krista Quilts, back with some more free motion fun. Today I'm going to focus on a couple of modern geometric designs that I like to call shapes on a stick. We're going to start off with string of pearls, and then I'm going to show you how to quilt square chain and spiral chain. These are just a few fun designs that you can mix up and really customize. All three of them can be found in my book, 99 Machine Quilting Designs. Be sure to stick around to the end where I talk a little bit more about the quilt behind me and how I quilted it. For now, grab a copy of the book, practice samples, and your sketchbook so you can draw it out and then stitch along with me. String of pearls is design number 46. Square chain is design number 47, and spiral chain is design number 77, all from my book. I'll start with a straight line and a circle, then backtrack or stitch on top of my previous line and then keep on going. You can do this on the left or the right side of each circle, and your circles can be any size and you can even use any shape. To make this a continuous pattern, I'm going to do another row, and to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to offset the little circles. Now, this is not a computerized design. This is all handcrafted with all of the little wobbles and bobbles and human imperfections that make these designs so fun, forgiving, and carefree to stitch. A bunch of lines and a bunch of circles. Maybe it looks like little olives or a little charcuterie or what have you. Maybe little tomatoes, whatever you're in the mood for. But it's a fun, cute design that adds a touch of whimsy to your quilt. Now I'll show you how to free motion quilt string of pearls. I'll make sure my feed dogs are dropped so that I can stitch in any direction, and I'm using my specialty free motion foot. First, I'm going to stitch a straight line and then a circle. Then I will backtrack on the right or left hand side of the circle. I tend to kind of just do it on one side over and over because that's how my brain thinks, but either way is fine. Then I'm going to keep going down with the same design, more circles and backtracking on each one so that it creates a string. Next, I'm going to make another string next to the first one to continue the pattern. Now, you can also offset the circles to make it a little more interesting, a little bit more organic. And don't worry if they're not perfectly offset, they're not supposed to line up evenly, and they may not necessarily be the same size. Part of the appeal is that this is going to be a handcrafted design, and so any imperfections are expected and totally okay. Now, to spice things up, you can also quilt any shape, a square, star, heart, pretty much anything you can think of to create a really fun custom design. Square chain is similar to the string of pearls design, but I'm doing it with squares instead of circles. I can either backtrack the design or I can cut through the design. I can echo the design. Those are just a few of the fun possibilities, but the idea is that I'm doing this line and square design all the way across my quilt. Because this is a free motion design, I can stitch it in any direction. Right now, I'm pretending like I would stitch the design from top to bottom, but let's say you want to keep it continuous without cutting thread, or you want to go up and down or fill in a smaller space. Notice what happens when I get to the bottom. I can simply go over, stitch over, and then come back up. Now, I'm not trying to line up the designs. I'm just letting them be whimsical and carefree. And let's see, what do these look like? Maybe little crackers, or maybe these are little marshmallows or something. But again, the idea is it's just a really fun geometric design. You can play around with it, you can make it your own, but you just want to fill in all the space. Now I'm going to fill in the other half of this design with something similar, but I'm going to quilt squares instead of circles. And I'm going to call this one square chain. The design is very similar, but I can stitch the design vertically or horizontally, or really in any direction. You can try the diagonal, or you can even make it continuous. So just like we did with string of pearls, I'm going to stitch a line, then the square, and then I'm going to backtrack up the side before I'm moving forward to the next design. Now you can vary this design, you can try stitching through the middle of the square, you can echo along the side of the square, really anything you can think of. When I reach the end of my sample or quilt, instead of stitching off and ending, you can simply stitch down to begin another line of square chain, and in this way you can make it a continuous design. Here's what string of pearls and square chain look like stitched out on my practice sample. This technique can be applied to any shape you can think of. Spiral chain is another one in this same series that's fun to do, where you have a design, a line, and then a shape. For this one, it almost looks like little lollipops, and I'm switching directions as I go. So this is one way that I can do the spirals, and I can do them from top to bottom, or I can make them continuous. Now let's say you have a specific space that you want to fill in. I'm going to pretend like this is an area on my quilt, and maybe I've got 1-inch sections all the way across my quilt. In this case, I would want to scale the design to fit that section, and maybe I'm going to do it horizontally instead of vertically. So I can come in, do my little spiral chain, maybe I cut through each one, and I can do it one at a time, or I can make this a continuous design by stitching back over to the next little area. Maybe if each of them is 2 inches, I only do a couple of rows, but again, I'm filling in and I am changing the design or the scale of the design to fit the area and to fit the shape. If I want it to be more of an all-over design, I can just pick an area, and again, doesn't matter what my spiral looks like. Maybe I play around with a few different spirals. Again, I'm going in more of a linear direction, but I'm trying to fill in all of the spaces. You can really be creative with these types of designs. I call them shish kebabs because it's basically a shape on a stick. Play around with the stick, add a little line, and have fun with it. Like with the first design, begin with your spiral chain at the top right of your sample and then stitch downwards. I tend to stitch my design starting on the right and then working my way across to the left, but really any direction is fine as long as you feel comfortable with what you're doing. Now I'm only stitching a couple of spirals before moving on to each next line, just to show you how you can alter the design to fit a specific area in your quilt and still make it continuous. You could do it one line at a time, like I showed with string of pearls, or you can make it a continuous motif and meander all around your quilt. Try both ways and see what you prefer. Now, if you really want to make this design evenly spaced, you can absolutely mark out the lines and then stitch this design in between them. So on my sample, I've marked out a few lines with a blue washable marker so you can see how I quilt them to make them a little bit more uniform in size and spacing. So a lot of times if I have an area in my quilt that's maybe a 3-inch space, maybe I will cut that in half and I will stitch these designs on a 1.5-inch scale, or I could even scale it down, mark a couple of lines so that I have 3 different sections, and then each section could be about an inch big. It's really up to you how big or small you want them to be. These lines basically represent seam lines to show you how I would stitch in between them. And again, these spirals are not going to be perfect, but that's part of the beauty of this handcrafted quilting design. Here's a few different variations of spiral chain. This design is a good alternative to straight line quilting. Aren't those geometric designs fun? It really is cool to change up different shapes with straight lines, wavy lines, to really customize them and make them your own. That's what I did on this quilt behind me called Plum Lines. This is a quilt from the book called The Ultimate Guide to Machine Quilting that I co-authored with Angela Walters several years ago. And what's really cool about this quilt is I entered it into a machine quilting specific show several years ago, and it ended up with a ribbon. How cool is that? Now, I share my work to inspire you, ribbon or not, but I hope you'll be inspired with lots of these different designs. Take a look at this quilt called Pearl Gray with a similar quilting plan, and this one comes from my book, Machine Quilting with Style. You can check out the description box to get links to all of my books, patterns, lots of things to inspire you. Plus, you can watch the entire playlist from start to finish. You can really have fun binge watching and practicing, all at your heart's content. Be sure to leave me any comments, let me know how you're doing, and I'm excited to catch you in the next one. Until then, happy quilting.